Oh, George, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Brother John?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm a little roasted. I was in the sun today, so I'm a little roasted, a little dehydrated. So I'm drinking plenty of water.
Good for you. And I got plenty of coffee. I got plenty of coffee.
All right. So today is Saturday night. Tomorrow, this coming Sunday, the Bills play Miami Dolphins in Miami.
Yeah.
Now, George, I went to a football game today.
Okay.
I saw University of Central Florida take on Georgia Tech.
Wow.
Now, Central Florida's stadium has no shade. It's just, they call it the Sun Dome. Oh, it's a good name. So if the Bills are in the sun, which I imagine they would have to be, that is going to be rough.
Hmm.
I mean, there is a home field advantage if you stick the opposing team in that heat and humidity. Now, I don't. Now I'm in Central Florida. They're in Miami. It may be a hair cooler in Miami, but I think at this time it's still pretty humid. So Buffalo, they better bring their their water bottles and what do you call it, the IVs, because they're going to need them.
Well, John, I'm in Nebraska, and so we follow Nebraska Cornhusker football. But the local talk show radio here told us this week, they said, 2 weeks ago, Nebraska fired Scott Frost. Last week, they fired the defensive coordinator.
Right?
This week is a bye week for Nebraska.
Nobody got
So,
fired.
so nobody got fired, but they suggested that from the rest of the season, we might be interested in checking out the Syracuse Orangemen because they're playing good football. So could you imagine the Miami Hurricanes coming out and say, you ought to go watch USC or something?
Did they really say that?
Yeah.
Just because they're playing good ball right now.
Yeah, check out the Syracuse Orangemen. They're 3-0. You'll enjoy some football.
No, I didn't see a score for them today. Maybe I wonder if they played today.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't check out football. I actually took the day off from it.
Okay.
Just enjoyed myself. And I've been watching a lot of stuff about the Bills, and that's really what we're here for anyway, right?
That is true. Oh, George, you know what? They played last night
Yeah.
and they
Okay.
won.
Whoa, who did it beat?
Virginia.
Well, that's great.
I watched the game. I don't know what they're thinking. All right. George, we said earlier, we waited till about the last possible moment to do our pre-game for game 3.
Yes. Because of all the injuries that were out
The injuries. And unfortunately, now we have a pretty good idea, and the news ain't good.
there. Yeah, that's right.
I is out for a season with a neck injury.
Yeah. They said he's out for a neck injury, but they didn't really tell us what that neck injury is and why would he be out for a year. Does that mean surgery? So there's a lot of stuff
Yeah,
up in the air that we're not being told yet. But we do know he's not going to play this year.
we had heard earlier in the
That
week.
they're confident he's going to play next year.
We had heard earlier in the week that he was getting a second opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And we just kind of like, when you go to get a second opinion, that means you don't like the first opinion.
Yeah.
So we were hesitant to say because you don't know, but it didn't sound good.
Yeah.
And now we at least know he won't be here for the season.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the good news is, I don't remember his backup's name, but his backup has been with the team for a couple of years.
DeMar Hamlin?
Yeah. He's been with the team for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
In preseason, last year and this year, he got a lot of playing time.
Mm-hmm.
He played the whole game, every game, 60 minutes. But he got a lot of playing time. All right. So let's move on to the next injury. We know Trey White is still out.
Right.
The defensive tackle,
Jordan Phillips.
Jordan Phillips, is out.
And Oliver is out.
And Oliver is out. So they both missed last game, correct?
No, last game was Tim Settle and Ed Oliver. This week, it's Jordan Phillips and Ed Oliver, and Tim Settle is still questionable.
Okay. Now, it is it. So this is, I think, so this is going to be the second game that Oliver will have missed.
Right.
They did not put Oliver on the IR. Now, the current rules, if you go on the IR, you have to be on it for 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Well, he had limited practices. He was out there. I saw photos of him. His ankle was taped up. He was trying it.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe they're just taking precautions, say there's no reason to rush him back. That could worsen the injury, just stay out another week and let's see how it goes.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we've heard now that Dane Jackson is going to miss this game.
Yes.
Now, we all saw, like, unlike the Micah Hyde injury, where I really am not 100% sure what happened to him and how he got hurt, we all saw Dane Jackson's injury. Certainly understandable that he would miss some time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody understands that. In fact, we're thinking,
yeah, I mean, and he's not practicing now, and so there's no reason to throw a guy into a game that hasn't even practiced. So it's just let it time take its course, and
he didn't go also. They did not put him on IR of any type, year or 4 weeks. So presumably they feel like he'll be back. And that was, I didn't say it, but with Oliver as well, presumably he will be back in under 4 games. Mm-hmm. Or they would have put him on IR and allowed themselves to replace his position.
Right.
Okay. So you got a 53-man roster. You can only dress 48.
Okay.
Micah Hyde has now been removed from the 53-man roster, and they could pull someone up from the practice squad if they wish, and I'm sure they will. Oliver, Phillips are still on the 53-man roster. They're just not able to play, so they'll be undressed. Like, they won't get the dress. They won't be part of the 48. All right, where does that leave us? So
you still got an issue with Jordan Boyer. He's questionable. Although everything I'm hearing is they expect him to play.
Yeah, I was getting the impression that he is expected to play.
Yeah.
All right.
So your back 4 is a rookie, a second or third year guy that hasn't been a starter, and an injured veteran.
Against
against what they call the Blurs Brothers. Have you heard that team now? The Blurs Brothers?
The Blur Brothers, yeah. That does not sound good.
Tyreek Hill and Waddle, Jalen Waddle, they call themselves the Blur Brothers.
Well, I don't know if they named themselves that or if that came from one of the ESPN guys, but yeah, the Blur Brothers. That's a great nickname.
Yeah, it is. It's a good name.
But the thing is, though, well, hold on. Let's continue injuries. Let's go to offense.
Okay.
I have heard, well, Gabe Davis has stated himself that he's going to play.
Okay.
We have not heard from the team that he's for sure starting, but he has said that he's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
So that would bring the offense to all the guys will be out there. All the guys are available today. I don't believe there's anybody.
If you believe he's really going to play, it could be a ploy on the part of the Bills to, we better prepare for him, and better to be prepared for Gabe Davis on the field, the Dolphins defense, than not. But who knows what the Bills are really going to do? Davis may never see that. He may dress. We may never see the field. We don't know.
All right. So where does that? So looking at this game, what do you think?
All right. Well, they were a 5.5-point favorite. It's now, since all these injuries, it's slipped down to a 5-point favorite. So the Bills are favored by 5 on Miami's home field.
With the injuries. So I always look at a football game that it's 2 games. The Bills offense against the Miami defense, and the Miami offense against the Bills defense. Right. And most of the injuries right now are on the Bills defense.
and you've got two fantastic receivers in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and you've got a back four that at this point are iffy, and we're only iffy because of their experience. That doesn't mean they haven't played well.
Okay.
But when you got like Hyde and Poyer together, they've known each other. They seem to communicate without even talking.
Yeah.
What each other's going to do. They've been through all these things together. They've seen everything. These guys haven't seen everything. They haven't seen anything. So you can't believe they could play anywhere up to the standards of Hyde and Poyer or a White on the field.
Right.
So
that's true. We haven't really talked about Trey White not being there because we knew he wouldn't be.
And Jalen Waddle, he's only a couple of years into the league, so he hasn't seen everything either. But Tyreek Hill, he has. I mean, let's say it. He's been in a couple of Super Bowls. He's got a championship ring. He's a smart receiver, and they're going to create some problems in that backfield. So with that said, I still think the Bills' defensive line, even with the parts that they're missing, they have so much depth. And we talked about it in the past. The depth this year and on the line is the drop off from the first to the second tier is very slight. Where in past years, if the first guy was out, first stringer was out, you were in trouble. We don't have that this year. We've got some great players. That Gregory Rousseau, he's becoming a monster.
Good.
And he's really putting pressure on the quarterback. And maybe we'll see Shaq Lawson make more of an effort. Let's say the Miami offense is not a running team. They're a one-dimensional team. They really don't run the ball very well, and they don't run it very often. Their run game is a short pass game. And that really is what they're all about, is a short pass game. And when you look at the box, or what we call the four down linemen, and then the linebackers or that nickel corner, we've got great experience there. And even with the linebackers that are rookie, like Terrell Bernard, his kids are doing fantastic already. And you've got Trey Edmonds playing at all-star type caliber the first two games. Milano is flying all over the field. And Miami has really been able to score mostly on Tua throwing a 5 or 10 yard pass, and then Hill or Waddle running another 70 yards. They're really not burning guys over the top. And even though we have some younger cornerbacks, the coaching on the Bill staff, I think, will keep everything in front of them. I think you're going to see the Miami receivers make a number of catches. I think you're going to see that time of possession closer than it has been in the last couple of games. I think Miami's going to be able to make some first downs. And I think they'll be able to keep it closer than what we've seen the Rams do or what we've seen the Titans do. But I don't think the Miami offense is going to be able to score enough points to offset what Josh Allen and the offenses can do. The Miami defense, when I watched their game against Baltimore, and they just clogged up the running lanes. Yes, Lamar Jackson had a good day, but other than Jackson, they really weren't able to run the ball. Miami shut them down on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, a number of times. Miami could do nothing. But Miami caught them because they were able to do some play action, and Tua was able to get over the top because the Baltimore cornerbacks were not keeping plays in front of them. And I don't think the Bills are going to let that happen. And Josh Allen, so if he's without Gabe Davis, we were without Gabe Davis last week, and Stephon Diggs was the magic man.
Well, that's true.
And you still have guys on that offense. We've talked about how much the running backs are involved in the game now. Maybe not the running, but with those short passes. We even heard Diggs talk about it this week, where he said, he got a number of passes. He might get on a first down play, he might get a pass for 4 yards. He said that is part of our running game. So now it's 2nd and 6. Josh is wide open for what he can do. So you're going to continue to see the Bills running backs take part in this game, and whether it's running or in the pass game. And a guy like Diggs, a guy like even Kumaro are going to be able to get beyond the Miami Dolphins safeties. And I think Josh is going to be able to score enough times that whatever Miami can do, it's not going to be enough for them. The Bills are going to land on top again, and I think they'll cover the spread.
All right. Well, one of the things you said about the defensive front four, and like, I understand what you're saying, that there isn't as much gap between most of the players, like the starters and the non-starters.
Yeah.
Well, there's one notable exception. There's no other Von Miller.
No, that's true. He's healthy. He's ready to go.
So it was great that he's healthy and he seems to be ready. But that's the one thing that's like, maybe from 2 through 10, they're a lot closer in skill level. But he's still one.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment there, and I accept your point. Well taken.
All right. The only thing I would throw at you is Miami, like you said, the Bills, Miami has not been able to establish a run in the first 2 games. That's been a weakness. From what so this week I was paying a little bit more attention to Miami, and from what I'm gleaming, they've struggled with running the ball. Now, whether that's even in preseason, so whether that's because offensive line issues, running back issues, I don't know, because it looks like they've got a stable of running backs that look pretty good. They're not league leaders, but still decent, and they just haven't been able to have much of a ground game. This would be a horrible time for them to fix that. I don't think it'll happen, but this would be a horrible time for them to discover that they can run the ball.
Yeah.
I tell you what, George, I wouldn't mind at all if the Bills discovered a running game in this game.
Okay.
I understand. Like, I think because the Bills' offense is really fairly healthy. I think, and it's been so incredibly potent. A lot of people are expecting that they will put points up. They've also put points up against Miami for 2 years in a row now. So there's expectation that the Bills will be able to score. And there's some expectation that maybe with Waddle and Tyreek Hill and that incredible output they had in the fourth quarter of the game against the Ravens, maybe they've put something together and they'll be able to score as well. So there's a lot of thought of a high-scoring game, and maybe that is what will transpire. But I wouldn't mind if the Bills are able to control the ball a little bit. I know they've been doing that with short passes, and maybe that's how they'll do it if they're going to do that. But I really wouldn't mind if they can establish a bit of a running game.
Well, I totally agree with what you're saying. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a little surprised we didn't hear that they signed Duke Johnson off the practice squad. Moss has not been that important in our running game so far the first couple of weeks. And the rookie, James Cook, although he had an impact last week, it was against third stringers in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's meant nothing so far.
Yeah.
And I would rather see Singletary out there with Duke Johnson, who we know catch the ball and can run the ball, instead of counting on 50-yard passes down the sideline to a fullback.
Yeah, George, we'll have to see who they. So Duke Johnson is on the practice squad. They'd have to move him up to the 53
Right.
man, and then they'd have to activate him.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, we haven't heard a damn thing about him being moved to the 53 man roster. Seems like they're very happy with Singletary, Moss, with Cook sitting there trying to get Cook some experience, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they went to the fourth quarter and they were trying to do that situational play where they were running the ball in the fourth quarter with a big lead, it was Cook, and Cook had a lot of runs.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Good experience for him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine.
The
But
one time they tried him in the regular game, he fumbled the ball. So it's like, you're either going to try this kid, or let's get Duke Johnson up here and try and create a run game. If you don't trust Cook, then fine, don't play him. Get somebody. You already lost Blackshear, which is unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
They picked him off the practice squad. And, so you're either going to have to get some confidence in Cook, or you're going to have to get Duke Johnson up here. On a side note, did you realize that Bobby Hart was suspended for a game?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's another, not an injury, but another
You know
guy.
what he did?
Some kind of personal foul. I don't know.
No, he
Did he
got
punch somebody? Or?
after the game was over, when the teams leave the field in the tunnel,
Mm-hmm.
punched one of the Tennessee Titans coaches.
What an idiot. I'm sorry,
I
John.
don't
We
know
weren't
if
fans of his.
I
We
don't-
weren't fans of his during the preseason. And I was still shocked that he made the team, to be honest with you, let alone the actual team. I thought, at the very most, maybe the practice squad. I didn't even think he should be on the team. And then to do something like that, let's say it, that's just ignorance. It's just not a smart play. It's a dumb play.
I got to tell you, well, we've got the new offensive line coach.
Yeah.
Because maybe this guy sees something in Hart. Maybe he's been able to work with them, because when you said you were surprised that he made the 53 man roster,
Mm-hmm.
I was too. And in fact, I looked at it and said, if he's on a 53 man roster, they got no depth.
Mm-hmm.
They depend on this guy. They're going to keep 9 guys. That means they got 8 left. That really.
They got the kid Manch on the practice squad, and he outplayed him the whole preseason.
Yeah, I don't. Well, you know what? We don't get to see the practices themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the kid showed something, in practice, because it was pretty brutal last year when he was playing.
Now we're complaining about a team who is 2-0. Just so everybody knows, they're not only 2-0. Last week they didn't have their starters in the fourth quarter, not because they didn't need them, but because the other team gave up. Put their starters out. And so Buffalo said, okay, well, all right, we're not going to just bury you. I mean, they Bills could have scored 60 points last week.
They could have hung half a C-note on them for sure. They already had 41 going into the fourth.
Yeah.
But Case Keenum needed some work.
Yeah, he needs to hand off and stay fresh.
Yeah, stay fresh.
Even Mitch Morris is banged up.
Yeah.
And that's the captain on that offensive line. So, I mean, we got question marks, but it's just my opinion. And you can have a different opinion, and we'll find out tomorrow what really happens.
So what do you think so it's a 5-point spread. Do the Bills cover or not? So you're picking them to win.
I'm thinking more like 30-24.
So you got them covering.
Yeah, I got them covering, but just barely. And I can see 24 points is a lot for the Bills to give up, but let's give the Dolphins their due. They got 2 great receivers, a quarterback who has been playing better, not just this year. When he came back from his injury last year, the whole last end of the year, he played very well. So this is nothing new for Miami. If you look back over the last 4 or 5 games last year, and counting this year, they might be 5-6 or oh, at this point. I don't know. They really played very well when he came back. They just barely missed out on the playoffs.
That's a good point. Yeah, they did. They started out. They had a strong second half of the season, and they're starting off this year 2-0.
Yeah, their problem is they don't know how to play this year in the first 3 quarters of the game. And the fourth quarter, I don't know if it's the other teams are tiring because they don't have enough. Teams aren't really ready enough because of the lack of preseason games. But Miami seems to find themselves in the fourth quarter and storm a comeback. And they played well against New England in that fourth quarter, and they played well against whoever they played. I can't remember at this point. But Baltimore. They played well against Baltimore last week. But I don't think they're going to be able to come back on the Bills. I mean, the Bills might be up 30-10, and maybe it ends up 30-24.
That would be nice.
They might coast to victory, right?
Well, what we could see is if the Bills were to get out to a lead, see if they can. They might then they might really try to run the ball in the second half to try to kill the clock.
Yeah, and if that's the case, and they're not able to pick up the first downs, then that's how Miami will find an ability to get their points. And that's kind of the way I'm seeing the game going. Is if the Bills don't keep the pedal to the metal, and they just try to grind it out during the third quarter, that's when Miami can become dangerous.
All right. Well, we'll have to see. We've got, I think it's about 14, 15 hours before the game starts.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to see how it goes. I know you're planning on watching the game. Do you have any snacks ready for the game?
I do, John. I bought a charcuterie board.
Oh, charcuterie board.
I got olives, black Kalamata olives. I got green olives. I got salami. I got, I don't know what else I got in there. I got all kinds of meat sliced up. I got cheeses. I got little crackers.
All right. Well, my son and I are going. We're going to go somewhere and get wings. Watch the game.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Did you tell me what you think of the game? What are you predicted?
What was your score again? I'm sorry.
I said 30-24. I think it's going to be a closer game because I do think those receivers are that good and are going to be able to take advantage of some of the rookies out there. And eventually Tua will move around long enough or once in a while have enough time to make a connection. And a guy like Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle are good enough to get some yards after the catch.
All right. You know what? I'm thinking something along those lines, but I'm thinking kind of 34-33.
Okay.
Real barn burner. I don't think the Bills cover. But
I think they cover 5 points.
I think they cover, but I think they win.
Okay.
And I'm thinking a high-scoring game, but it could very well be a low-scoring game. Miami didn't really score many points until the fourth quarter.
Right.
If the Bills end up coming up short tomorrow or turning the ball over, they could be in the same boat. But I'm thinking more like 34-33.
Both games for the Bills this year, it was kind of close in the first quarter until the Bills defense made any adjustments that they saw on the fly during that first quarter and were able to shut down both the Rams and Tennessee.
A lot of teams do, that script. The first 15 plays are scripted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of teams can be very successful in that while they're playing that script.
Mm-hmm.
They've practiced those plays. They know what they are. Fridays walkthrough, Saturdays walkthrough. They're checking. They're going through those plays specifically. But when they get past those, the Bills defense has been pretty stout.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, right. Once they get past those, and they seem to be able to find a way to get a lead going at halftime, and then they pull away in the third quarter. But I don't think that's going to be the case this week. I think Miami will play better in the first quarter than they have been. And I do think the Bills will shut them down in the second and third quarter. And Miami will come back when we're trying to burn up the clock in the fourth quarter.
I'll be watching in a bar, so I won't be able to hear the game. But keep a listen for, especially the second half, if you're hearing Bills players getting cramps.
Mm-hmm.
Going off the play is over, and then all of a sudden they realize there's a Bills player on the ground.
Yeah, and that's a good reason. That's a good reason to want to have depth instead of all these injuries. And we don't have that. And that's why I'm thinking the Bills could get worn down, and the offense could be trying to grind down that fourth quarter. And that's when Miami can be deadly.
In the spring training, during the preseason, the Bills gave Cam Lewis some reps at safety.
Mm-hmm.
But as he was on the injury report, so I think he was doubtful. So he may not. You were talking about depth and how they're using their depth for their starters right now, and not just have it for when a guy needs to come off the field.
Right.
Well, that's one less depth right there. That's a significant player. He's their slot corner, but then they also got him some work at safety, and he could have been their backup safety going into this game. And if he's not able to play,
well, and I'm not sure where they'll put Saran Neal. They can bring him in.
I'm sure they will. I think he dresses every game. I mean, he's a stout, is an important special teams player for him. So you're right. I think he's kind of a guy Friday. He does a little bit of everything. Corner, outside corner, safety. I think he's a kind of a big fella.
I still have a question whether we'll see a guy like Teron Johnson, who's really done a great job in the slot. And I'm wondering to see if we bring in a third linebacker and move Teron to one of the outside cornerback spots to spell some of these rookie time.
Well, you said to spell them, and that could be.
Yeah.
And then the other, or if they are just getting toasted.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're going to see a lot of zone.
Yeah.
We're going to see a lot of zone. And a lot of predictable zone. So Miami has been studying what this team does. If you know that they are even less likely to play man-to-man because of the rookies, you might very well see a lot of zone. And they might be able to identify that at pre-snap read. Who's going to know what's coming.
Yeah.
And the front seven, the front six have to have a good game.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, to have a third linebacker in, for me, when I look at our linebackers, last year that third guy was Klein. This year you got Bentley, who's built and plays more like Milano.
Yeah,
he can cover, he can move all over. He can certainly clog up those passing lanes in a zone coverage. And
yep.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the field more. That's what I mean. I think Frazier has enough guys and enough weapons on the defense to keep the Dolphins from scoring enough points.
Frazier and McDermott, and I'm sure their defensive back coach.
Mm-hmm.
For years now, we've given them all kinds of accolades for how well they teach the defensive backfield. Not just the safeties, but I mean, as a group, they've done a great job of teaching these guys, developing them. Trey White was the only first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
They had Levi Wallace for years. Now they're using Dane Jackson. They're very good at teaching these guys. That's a real strength that they have. So they don't have a lot of experience, but they've got some very good teachers helping them out.
John, if they get past this week with the Dolphins, if they don't, they fall to number 2 in their division.
Right.
And then I still think they'll win the division. I don't have a problem with that, but they have to play a little differently, and they have to win games that, you don't have any games you can spare, that kind of thing, where if they win this game and they go it's effectively going 2 games up on Miami.
Well, that's true.
And then next week, I don't see a problem with them with Baltimore. Then we got Pittsburgh, and I don't see a problem with the Steelers. You know, Trubisky
Steelers are
sure
struggling
doesn't
to
scare
score.
me.
Steelers offense is struggling right now real bad.
Yeah. And then we get to Kansas City and we'll find out. And if the Bills can go win there at 5-0 and or 6-0, whatever it is, I'm losing count.
Yeah. Listen, look. I hear you. No sense counting our chickens before we got to get past this game, and then we'll talk. I think Baltimore's the fourth game, right?
I think it is. Yeah.
All right. So, listen. By the time we get to Pittsburgh, they might even have a different quarterback. So it's too early to be thinking about that.
Right. I would love to see Rousseau and Von Miller feasting on a rookie quarterback
Me too.
in Buffalo against the Steelers. That would just make my heart a flitter.
You know what? We'll throw a sack in there for Boogie Basham too, because he's been a good boy.
He's been playing good. He even got his own interception. He batted the ball, got an interception, almost ran it in for a touchdown.
That is an athletic play right there for a big guy.
I mean, I heard they were considering even playing him on the inside this week.
You know what? Yeah, they may try a bunch of. From a standpoint, so the player who would be the starting left tackle for Miami is out. He did not play last week, and they do not expect him this week.
Rousseau is going to eat his lunch.
The starting right tackle. Now that's, I believe, Tua's lefty, so that's his backside. He did not practice this week. Now last week he didn't practice, but he played. He's got some kind of nagging injury. He didn't practice, but I think the expectation is he'll still play. But it is at two critical positions, they're using a backup, and they got a kind of a wounded warrior out there. So that, the front seven has a chance of really dominating this game, and that might be the Bills' best on defense. That was probably their best chance.
Yeah, and I hope the Bills are not the only team this year with the injury bug. And last year there were a lot of injuries around the league early as well. I hope the NFL sits down and takes a look at this whole thing about the number of preseason games and having a 17th game and all this kind of stuff. I know it's good for their pocketbook, but you're talking about men's lives out there and their livelihoods, and as well as the quality to the fan.
We're sitting at less than a minute here.
So okay, let's wrap it up.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. Feel free to comment.
Okay. Enjoy the game, and thanks for watching.
Everyone. We'll see you shortly after.
Bye. Bye.